King Athelstan, Edward the Elder, and Athelflaed were key historical figures depicted within the Last Kingdom TV series. But it was only the death of Athelflaed that was displayed within the show. The death of Edward the Elder was ambiguously portrayed, and Athelstan's death is not depicted in any way or form by the conclusion of the Last Kingdom. But how exactly did Edward the Elder and King Athelstan die? Was the way in which Athelflaed's death depicted in the Last Kingdom historically accurate or not? To better answer these questions, we will be doing a deep dive into contemporary sources and modern theories which reference the death of these crucial historical figures from the House of Wessex. But before we begin, don't forget, if you want to learn more about the death of some of history's greatest figures, then subscribe to my channel Historical Exit. When discussing the deaths of Athelstan, Edward, and Athelflaed, there's only a singular contemporary source which makes reference to the death of these descendants of Alfred the Great, and that is the historical text, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Although these figures' lives, political, and military achievements are well documented, there's unfortunately very little exact details provided within the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles in regards to the deaths of these royal and noble figures. But nonetheless, we will start this video by discussing the death of Athelflaed, which was depicted exceptionally well within the Last Kingdom, and the manner of her passing within the show matches very closely to what the medieval sources say about her death. And that is the fact that Athelflaed died in the year 918 AD at 48 years of age, as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle states the following in regards to her passing. Here in this year, Athelflaed, the Lady of the Mercians, departed this life 12 nights before midsummer at Tamworth. As can be surmised from the limited historical context provided in the above statement, it would seem that Lady Athelflaed passed away in an unsuspicious and non-controversial manner. Therefore, the most logical inference that can be ascertained is that Athelflaed died from natural causes, perhaps an unknown illness or infection. This is also the discourse that is most widely purported by modern historians, as the consensus seems to be the combined factors of no alternative contemporary discourses, limited medieval medical knowledge, and Athelflaed's advanced age make her passing away from natural causes the most plausible discourse when considering her cause of death. However, things are not so clear-cut when one begins to discuss the death of her brother King Edward, as there seems to be a greater degree of controversy regarding this monarch's enigmatic passing. Again, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles provides only the barest of details concerning the end of Edward's life in the year 924 AD. In this year, King Edward passed away at Farndon in Mercia. Although there is hardly any detail provided in the above statement, there is an important piece of information within the quote which makes labeling the death of Edward as a result of natural causes not as indisputable as was the case for Athelflaed. And the critical information that needs to be further considered is the location of Edward's death, which is mentioned as Farndon near Mercia. Contemporary sources highlight that Edward was in the middle of a military campaign while he was in Farndon, and there is a possibility that Edward may have passed away from an injury or wound during the battle. Although no contemporary source purports this discourse outright, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles also does state that in this year, before midsummer, King Edward went with an army to Nottingham and ordered a borough to be made on the south side of the River Trent, over against the other, and commanded it to be occupied and manned. And then after that, during the harvest, he died at Farndon in Mercia. The ambiguity surrounding Edward's death has led modern historians to propose three theories on how Edward may have passed away, and in order of academic plausibility, the discourses are as follows: that Edward may have passed away from an unexpected and deadly illness, he perished due to a critical battle wound or injury, or lastly, and least likely, is that he may have been assassinated due to the high level of political turmoil in the region. I personally believe the discourse that Edward perished from an illness while on campaign as the most probable cause of death for the monarch, as I consider it highly improbable that no contemporary historians would have documented the event if Edward had indeed perished in battle or been assassinated. Therefore, with the limited evidence we have available regarding King Edward's death, it would be prudent to propose that Edward perished from an unknown illness, but it is not implausible to accept the discourses that he may have perished from battle injury or assassination as well. The final monarch we will be discussing will be the great King Athelstan, who was able to fulfill his grandfather's grand ambition of a united England under the rule of a monarch from the House of Wessex. Like the other figures in this video, the only contemporary source which makes reference to the death of Athelstan is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, with the historical text stating, "In this year King Athelstan, the ruler of all Britain, departed this life at Gloucester on the 27th of October in the 16th year of his reign, and he was buried in the church of St. Mary at Malmesbury." Again, the chroniclers of this annals do not give any hint or evidence of anything untoward or suspicious being a factor in the death of Athelstan, and this viewpoint seems to have been reinforced throughout the medieval time period as well, with the 12th century medieval text, The Deeds of the Kings of the English, further reinforcing the discourse that King Athelstan died peacefully from natural causes. As the text states, Athelstan ended his life at Gloucester in the 44th year of his age, in the 16th of his reign, on the 6th of Calends of November, having provided for his brothers and conciliated by his munificence the principal men of the whole kingdom. Thus, full of years and glory, he departed to Christ. Therefore, with the evidence we have available from contemporary and later medieval sources, it is with a high degree of certainty that one can accept the discourse that King Athelstan passed away on the 27th of October 939 AD from natural causes. So to conclude, based on the evidence and the details recorded within the medieval historical text, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, it is highly probable that both Lady Athelflaed and King Athelstan passed away from natural causes. However, when discussing the death of King Edward the Elder, again, natural causes seems to be the most likely culprit in his cause of death. But this discourse cannot be accepted definitively, as there is still a small possibility that Edward may have passed away from injury or assassination. But let me know in the comments down below if you found this video to be interesting and what other historical figures' death you would like for me to cover next. And as always, don't forget, if you want to learn more about the death of some of history's greatest figures, then subscribe to my channel Historical Exit, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye.